There we go.
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me today. Been really interesting listening to Catherine, Ruth, and Simon, and an awful lot of what's been said. I really agree with. Look, I think that transforming social care and empowering the people who use care, their families, and the community is one of the biggest challenges facing our generation alongside climate change. And quite frankly, as a politician, if we can't secure a better deal for social care after the horrors of this pandemic, and quite frankly, the last 10 years, then we might as well pack up and go home. Like many people here, I have been banging the drum for a transformed system of care since, for over two decades. I remember back in 2002, one of the first books I wrote was called From Welfare to Wellbeing, The Future of Social Care, which was all about this social model of health that empowers the users of care, their families, the staff, and the community to live the life they choose. And that's what I still believe in today. I don't need to tell anyone here that this pandemic has brutally exposed the fundamental flaws in the system that many of us have been campaigning on for years. That social care is not seen as equally important as the NHS, whatever any politician might claim. We saw just last week the Public Accounts Committee explicitly setting out how social care was utterly neglected until the horrific death toll in care homes started to rise, and how frontline care workers literally saw their PPE and protective equipment requisitioned by the NHS. I am all for our NHS staff having the proper PPE and testing and vaccination and all of that, but it is just not true to say that there was a protective ring around social care from the start. There's been a failure to see that social care is inextricably linked not just to the NHS. We saw that with what happened with discharges from hospitals into care homes, but all the other issues that we've heard about today, what Catherine was talking about in terms of schools, what Simon was talking about in terms of people being forced to rely on the failing system of universal credit, a real lack of understanding essentially about what social care is, or I would argue what it should be. And I think at the heart of it is that services and support are not understood, and they are definitely undervalued. I would argue it's because the care workforce, predominantly female, many from Black and minority ethnic backgrounds, that care, work and support is seen as a woman's job and not worth paying, and about the value of people with physical and learning disabilities, and the fact that this is too often ignored by society. I think one of the, well, it's not shocking because we know it, but the fact that people with learning disabilities have been 6 times more likely to die from COVID-19, an issue many of us warned about right from the start, but again has been completely ignored. So I think that the need for reform has been exposed by this pandemic, but I think there is still a long way to go before we get there. Without doubt, we need an immediate injection, substantial injection of cash into the system. But actually what we want is a transformed system backed up with the proper funding that lasts for generations to come. And it's quite interesting that one of the health ministers in the House of Lords, Lord Bethell, argued recently, now is not the time for fundamental reform. The system has got too much on its plate. But I would argue the precise opposite. Now is precisely the time when we need to see big changes to give people hope that there is a better, fairer system in future. And I'm very struck by the vision of social care put forward by Social Care Future, which, as many of you know, is a movement of people who want to bring about major positive change by reimagining a different type of system of social care. And they say, and I think this is very powerful, we all want to live in a place we call home with the people we love, in communities where we look out for one another, doing the things that matter most to us. And that, I think, is the best summary I've heard of the system of care we want and need in future. It would be a system that worked for older and disabled people. I mean, if you think about it, I think that the pandemic has almost entrenched misconceptions about what social care is, that it's only about older people, not working age adults with disabilities. It's only about care homes and residential care, not supporting people's own homes or supported living or people who have personal assistance. So it really does have to be that system. And I think this is really linked to the debate we're seeing about how to pay for social care, where all the talk is about, a cap on care costs and how do you stop people having to sell their homes to pay for their care, which is an issue for older people, but is completely irrelevant when it comes to working age adults with disabilities. We need a system that fundamentally shifts the focus of support towards prevention and early intervention and helping people's own homes. I think we should have a principle of home first for social care in any reformed system. And as Simon, I think, will well know, all of that early help and support has been entirely stripped out of the system after a decade of cuts. And he talked about those cuts in a time when our population is aging and need is growing. And I think that scandal of people who are not getting any help and support is growing month on month. I do want to see a system that is fully joined up with the NHS, but not run by the NHS. I do not want a system of social care that is based within that medical model. I think that we want joined up services and support because people don't see their needs, in separate departmental silos. But how do we get all of these changes? And this comes to a point, I think, that Ruth, I was really struck by this, where she said citizens are the best experts of their need. I could not agree more. The reason that we need to empower people to have greater say and control over their lives isn't just a matter of principle, although I believe it is, but because people know best what their needs are. They're the best people to join up support because they don't see, oh, well, I have a health need over here or a employment need over here or a kind of community need over there. They're just one person. People are the best, the users of services and their families are the best people to shift the focus towards prevention because, they don't want to see their needs getting worse and worse when they don't have to. And I would say they're the best people to ensure effective value for money because the users of services hate seeing waste and inefficiency in the system. I believe that any politician, but I'm speaking for Labour now, we should be seeking to win power in order to give it away. And I don't just mean to local councils, because I think, as Catherine said, and as I see regularly in my own constituency surgeries, I have as many people complaining about how the local council is run as they are about, the government cuts and the implications and the impact that they have on people's life. It is genuinely about giving people power and control, or enabling people to take power and control over their lives. And of course, that is challenging. It's challenging to professionals, it's challenging to politicians, but the truth is it's right in principle and will get the best results. Finally, there will be talk about how we afford it. And I believe we do have to spell out how we would pay for care in future. We are not setting that out in detail at this stage of the parliamentary cycle. But I would also argue, just as Simon did, we can't afford not to do this. It's right morally right to give decent care and support. But also, we can't afford for people to be stuck in hospital when they don't need to be there. We can't afford for people with physical and learning disabilities to be put in long stay institutions, which cost an obscene amount of money, which we have seen can at the same time be terrible standards of care. It's not right that families, 1 in 3 family carers, has to give up work or reduce their hours because they can't get the support they need to look after the person they love. That doesn't make economic sense either. So yes, there is the moral case, but I believe there is the economic case too. And again, as I think Ruth said, we know that if you pay frontline care workers a decent wage, they spend it in their local community, and they don't have to rely on a failing social security system either. So I believe there is a moment to seize now. We have to do that, I think, but I really believe, despite everything that we've seen, we still face the battle of our lives. But together, I hope that we will win.
Brilliant. Thank you, Liz, for that. Can I just ask you one follow-up question, just slightly based on a comment Simon made earlier, which was about how you would feel working with other political parties to help build this progressive vision of social care?
I mean, I've spent the last 5 years arguing that if we can are more likely to get change by building cross-party support, then that's what we should do. I certainly don't believe that I have ever supported the Tory government in what they've been doing, but I've always been willing to work with others. I mean, the bottom line here is, I don't think that, the Tories don't need cross-party agreement. They've got a majority at the moment, but I do think having a system that lasts, whether there's broad-based agreement about the future, I think that would help. And I'm in the change business. If I can get change to happen earlier and quicker by working with others, that's precisely what I do.